of apartment to own one. Chapter 1: The New York Interloper. The morning sun over Santa Monica was never just a light source, it was a character. It filtered through the slats of the jalousie windows in Stanley Roper's ground floor apartment, illuminating the dust motes that danced over his floral patterned recliner. Stanley sat there, a man whose permanent expression suggested he had just bitten into a lemon, nursing a lukewarm cup of coffee. He was a man of simple, albeit grumpy, pleasures, and his morning ritual was sacred. In the bedroom, the heavy silence was punctuated by the rhythmic scratch of a nail file. Helen Roper, draped in a multicolored caftan that looked like a localized explosion in a textile factory, was grooming herself with the focus of a diamond cutter. Her life with Stanley was a long-running comedy of errors, one she survived through razor-sharp wit and a wardrobe that could be seen from space. "Be quiet, Helen," Stanley hissed, his voice like sandpaper on silk. "You're gonna wake Karen." Helen didn't miss a beat. Her file paused for a microsecond before resuming its labor. "Filing my nails is gonna wake up your knees. It's not the filing, Stanley. It's the breaking. Every time you break a nail, you swear loud enough to wake the dead." "Oh, so that's what got you up." Stanley groaned. His niece, Karen, had arrived from New York 48 hours ago, and since then, Stanley had transformed into a self-appointed warden. He felt the weight of his brother's expectations like a physical burden. To Stanley, New York was a den of iniquity, but Los Angeles? Los Angeles was a sprawling, neon-lit jungle of freaks, weirdos, and perverts. "Just hold it down, will you?" Stanley pleaded. "She flew in from New York and she's tired. You've heard of jet lag, haven't you?" Helen smirked, her eyes twinkling with a mischief that 20 years of marriage hadn't managed to extinguish. "Heard of it? I married it. You've been in a permanent state of jet lag since 1957, Stanley. You're still trying to adjust to the invention of the hula hoop." The bickering continued, a familiar ritual that served as the soundtrack to their lives. Stanley defended his itinerary for Karen Disneyland, the museum, the pier, and his exhaustive, nightly recitations of his war stories. Helen, however, saw the truth. To a 20-something girl from the Big Apple, being trapped in a ground floor apartment with a man who could talk for 3 hours about the logistics of a mess hall in 1944 was the definition of purgatory. She ought to be out having some fun with people her own age, Helen argued, her voice softening. She ought to be out dating. The word hit Stanley like a physical blow. Dating. In this city, it's crawling with perverts. Helen, I promised my brother I'd take care of her. She's a sweet, innocent girl from a good family. Oh, I wasn't talking about your friends, Stanley, Helen quipped. I'm talking about someone normal. Someone safe. It was then that Helen hatched the plan. a plan that involved the Andrews sisters upstairs in apartment 201. Jana, the sensible florist, Chrissy, the blonde whirlwind, and Jack, the young man whose presence in the building was only permitted because Stanley believed him to be safe. To Stanley, Jack Tripper was the ultimate escort for Karen. He was a man who, in Stanley's eyes, would be as interested in Karen as he would be in a particularly attractive head of lettuce. He was safe as an armored truck. Chapter 2: The Birthday Gamble. Upstairs in apartment 201, the atmosphere was considerably more chaotic. The air smelled of burnt sugar and cheap cologne. Jack Tripper was currently engaged in a delicate operation involving a cake and a spatula. Jana Wood, the brunette soul of the apartment, was in the kitchen, blissfully unaware of the minor disaster unfolding in the living room. Chrissy Snow, her blonde hair tied back in a messy ponytail, watched Jack with wide-eyed apprehension. "Jack, why does the cake say Jimmy?" Jack sighed, scraping at the frosting with the intensity of a surgeon. "Because Jimmy didn't pick up his order. Chrissy, I got it at half price at the bakery. If I can just scrape off the my, it reads Happy Birthday Jay, which is informal, very chic, very minimalist. But her name is Jana," Chrissy pointed out, her logic as impeccable as it was inconvenient. "Details, Chrissy, details." Jack waved the spatula dismissively. "Jana starts with a J, J starts with a J. It's a linguistic victory for our bank account." The roommates were broke a chronic condition that defined their existence. Jeanette's birthday was a looming financial crisis. Jack had hawked Jeanette's grandmother's cameo months ago to pay the rent, a secret that gnawed at him every time he saw her jewelry box. He was determined to make this birthday special, even if it meant serving a repurposed Jimmy cake. The door creaked open, and Stanley Roper stepped in, his presence immediately lowering the room's energy like a cold front. He looked at Jack with a mixture of pity and calculated intent. "Jack, could I see you for a minute?" Stanley asked, ignoring the girls. Jack, always wary of the landlord, wiped his hands on his apron. "Sure, Mr. Roper." "What's up?" "Sink leaking, pipes banging. My rent is coming, I promise." Stanley's pitch was simple. Take Karen out. Show her the town. Keep her away from the weirdos. To Jack, the idea was a non-starter. It was Jeanette's birthday. He had a J cake to finish and a dinner to cook. "I can't, Mr. Roper. It's Jeanette's birthday. We have a whole dinner planned. Candles, music, the works." But Stanley was desperate. He pulled out a crumpled $50 bill of fortune in the economy of apartment 201. $50, Jack. And you can use my car. It's got half a tank of gas and only makes a screaming noise when you turn left. Jack's eyes widened. $50. That was more than enough to get Jeanette's cameo back from the pawn shop. It was the answer to his prayers and the source of a new moral dilemma. $50, Jack whispered,